there are two words that will keep a person awake at night more reliably than almost anything else. Not heartbreak, not illness, money. Specifically, the gnawing, constant low level dread of not having enough, of having gotten it wrong, of running out of time. That's something that most of the people are really anxious about. And that's the kind of financial anxiety that exists. And it's not really just a money problem, it's a mental health problem. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life on the Healthy Mind by Avik Network, where we believe that financial peace and mental well-being are not two separate conversations. I'm your host, Ryan, as some of you would know, and today I'm joined by David Nassief, author of #1 Amazon new release, One-Page Wealth Compass, fired at 63, nearly broke, and safely a millionaire by 69. That's a story, David, that I would love to talk about. And David, you have let go from an 18-year corporate career at 63 with almost no, retirement savings, rebuilt using a simple automated wealth system that you created yourself, and reach this kind of financial freedom status and millionaire status by 69. Now, that's something that I don't get to hear often. So welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today, and excited to see where this conversation really flows.
Thank you, Simon. I'm excited to be here with you today too. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Likewise. Absolutely. This is what, the story itself, it's so inspiring, and would love to, discuss what was really going on at that stage. Before we do, a little disclaimer for all the listeners right now.
Hey, dear listeners. Before we begin, a quick note from Healthy Mind by Avik. This episode is created for educational and informational purposes only. The views shared by our guests are their own and may not reflect those of the host or network. Nothing in this conversation should be taken as medical, legal, financial, or professional advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making important decisions. We encourage you to listen with curiosity, think independently, and use this content as a starting point for reflection, not a substitute for professional guidance. Now, settle in and enjoy the conversation.
So with that being said, David, I want to go back to that moment that, I talked about a little earlier. So the silence that after being told that you were to let go at 63, after 18 years that you have served. You have described it as standing on the edge of a financial crater. So what was really going on in your mind at that time, knowing that you did not have any retirement savings, so to say?
Yes. Well, I tell you, it's a day I wouldn't wish on anybody. Like I said, I was 63, just got fired after 18 years with the same company. When I did the math, it was brutal. If we drained all of our savings and all of our retirement, we were scheduled to be broke by the age of 65. When most people sit back, relax, say, okay, now it's time to enjoy the fruits of our labor, we'd be like, what? What's going on here? It was tough. It was very tough. And I was thinking, who's going to hire me at my age? At 63, it's just not, unemployed, nearly broke. It was really rough. But here's the toughest thing about all, Cyan, and that was very tough. But the hardest part was driving home, thinking, how am I going to tell my wife, Mary? We'd been married for 30 years, and she did not deserve the mess I just threw our life into. So anyways, after a couple months of dead-end job searching, and my heart wasn't in it, I did not want to go back to the corporate world, but we needed to put food on the table. I needed to do something to make money. So I started interviewing. It just wasn't going anywhere. And so then I decided to take a huge risk. And I went to work as an independent sales agent on straight commission. No salary, no safety net, no benefits. I'm telling you, those first months were brutal. Cold calls, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. I was getting more no's I think I ever got in my life in any 1 or 2 month period ever. But, looking back, I reflect back on it now, Cyan, I really believe all that resistance I was getting was strengthening my mental muscle so I could push through that dark period of my life. And after 10 months of grinding, I hit an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good paying corporate salary. And for a very brief second, I thought we made it. But then I realized we hadn't made anything because for 40 years, I was making good money. Most of my life, I was making really decent money. So that wasn't the solution. Also making good money was part of the solution, but it certainly wasn't the solution. I says, I got to do it differently. I can't just follow a bunch of investment theories or this guy pushing this product or that product. So I dug in. I read 21 books on financing. I listened to 13 podcasts faithfully on personal finance. I listened to read blogs and newsletters. Every time I got an idea, I put it on one piece of paper. I kept putting it on one piece of paper. When the paper filled up and I got another great idea, I had to take the worst one off and replace it with a better one. And I kept refining it, refining it, refining it. Finally, after 6 years, I did something I thought was impossible. From terrified of being broke to a 7-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. I now know, Sion, it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull it off starting as late as 63, anybody can with the right direction. And I truly believe that. I know it's to be true.
I mean, that's a story that can get inspiring. I mean, I don't believe or think, anything can sound more inspiring or motivating than that point. Very, very, talk a little bit about how you were feeling at that point when, you started off with the cold calling job specifically that, did not have any safety net. And I can feel it. All right. So I'm curious to know, David, what was the moment that you realized that, okay, something from here has to work? Like, when you hit that bare threshold and then you start to look up and you see yourself as you're not at the rock bottom anymore, right? From there, how do you build this mindset of even wanting more and, just grinding your way to where you want to reach?
Well, part of it was knowledge. Benjamin Franklin said the best investment we can make is in knowledge. And what I was doing when I was trying to build my company from scratch is I was reading books on startups and how to sell and market. And I did the same compass as I did with my finances. Whenever I got a good idea, I put it on this one piece of paper and I kept refining it and adding and adding. And about 3 months into it, there were some months sign where I was working more hours than I ever worked in my life and I was making nothing. How does that feel when you're making nothing and you're working all these hours? But anyways, after about 3 months, I started to see little signs of hope, little commissions, little sales. And I kept refining my thing and I could start to see the very, very flicker of a light at the end of the tunnel. It was very faint, I will admit in the beginning, but it got brighter and brighter as I started getting momentum. And as I started, these principles I put on this one sheet of paper started to work better. And I started to refine them and I started to learn lessons. I would take off the bad and put on the good. And when you start seeing even slight signs of progress, it does something wonderful for your attitude and your drive and your motivation because you're starting to finally see hope. And once you get that hope, it just I think builds on it as you continue to see results.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I think that's I love the way you reframed it. And let's talk about, how you framed set it and forget it, the philosophy that you share over and over again, because I think this is where the mental health conversation really gets interesting. So I think decision fatigue is real psychological phenomenon, right? The more financial decisions we have to make on a daily basis, the more our mental energy depletes. That's also where lots of, I would say, stress that comes in because of, constant thinking. And I think our choices really becomes more worse at that point. So how does automating wealth actually free up that cognitive and emotional space really, David?
Let me share with you the story that inspired it because I think it answers your question better than I can do it. And at the same time I was going through all this, I heard this true story. And scientists at the Max Planck Institute did an experiment. And what they did is they placed people in the center of a dense German forest, and they told them to walk on a straight line to the edge. Now, these were confident and capable people. But when the clouds covered the sun and they lost their point of reference, the GPS tracking was showing they were gradually starting to walk in circular motions. Some of them were ending up right back where they began. And yet each and every person was absolutely convinced they were walking in a perfectly straight line. So, that was my life story for 40 years when it came to money. I was working hard, making what I thought was good investments, doing what I thought was the right thing, but ultimately going in circles because proof of it was I was, like I say, on the verge of financial ruin after 40 years of making really good money. I mean, talk about walking in circles. It was ridiculous. And so what it did is when this happened, when I heard that story, I says, that's what I need. I need a compass, but not a metal compass like the travelers use. I need a one piece of paper compass so I can stay focused, stay direct. You ever do something and some shiny object comes along or some hot tip and you get distracted and all of a sudden you're way off on a tangent. You're not even doing what you're going to do. Well, I needed a compass to keep me focused because I knew I got on tangents real easy. For 40 years, I was on tangents. And that's what really happened. And when I was able to get it on one piece of paper, I didn't have nearly the decisions to make as I did before. I mean, my decisions were kind of already made, and the compass was just the guide to make sure I stay on track, and it just made life so much simpler. And what it did, the results it got for me, let me just share with you what happened after I got that compass, okay? I doubled my portfolio value 3 times in a 6-year period. And most financial analysts would say, that's impossible, David. The market didn't increase that much. You can't do that. Well, let me tell you what happened. I wasn't day trading, tracing crypto, trying to time the market. I was doing something so simple it put you to sleep. I developed an investment approach. And the crazy thing about it is when the market was down, I was thrilled. When other people were panicking and selling, I was buying more shares at discount prices. My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6-year period. I didn't need even better. And I think the reason I want to share this with you is because the math really helps understand the power of simplicity in decision making. There's a thing called the rule of 72. And what it says is if you're getting a 10% return on your money will double every 7.2 years or roughly every 86 months. Once I developed my simple one-page compass, my first double occurred in just 30 months. Second double, 13 months. Third one, 29 months for an average of 24 months. That is half the average time. That's way less than half the average time of the regular rule of 72. So that's what I'm saying. The simplicity gives you power. I mean, it gives you great power. I didn't have to stress about what do I do here? The market's down here. I didn't panic when the market was down. I was actually kind of jumping for joy when the market was down because I was buying stuff at discount prices. When you understand the logic behind things and the principles of truth and you have them simplified on one piece of paper, it does wonders for your mental health. I mean, I slept well at night. I didn't stress about the market. I didn't worry about it so much, and it worked out so well.
Yeah, I just have one thing that I want to ask because I'm curious.
Yes.
So, David, indeed, the finance world is really unpredictable. I mean, we have, the greatest of scientists working on, making predictive models that would able to predict the markets accurately. But there's still definitely some degree, and by some I mean a lot of uncertainty or degree of uncertainty that's involved. So what I really want to ask you is this: in those situations, when you felt like you were hitting at the rock bottom or are at the rock bottom, how does one even get to trust their own decisions at that point of time? Like, how do they not see it as desperation, but something that they can genuinely trust and move forward with that decision, if you could share?
Other people's experiences, highly credible people's experience. I'm telling you, I didn't just read any book on the market. I picked up credible books from leaders in the industry that didn't have, this is the key part of it, conflicts of interest. They weren't trying to sell you or pitch you a product. They were just giving back because they'd already made it and achieved it, and there was no product at the end of their advice. Okay, that's why I knew that was good. And let me tell you, I took out the uncertainty, and I know that sounds impossible. Like you say, there's supercomputers and PhDs trying to figure this out, and they can't figure it out. How can little David Nassief, who failed the second grade, did I mention that to you? I failed the second grade, okay? So how can I figure this out when this is so all these geniuses can't figure it out? Well, let me tell you, I was doing 3 things, and this is going to sound so simple, but there's power in simplicity. Number 1, I was saving a good portion of my income. Like I say, I always made decent income, but I wasn't always saving a good portion. I knew my runway was short. It was more like a helicopter pad than a runway. I needed to get serious. And so I was taking a good chunk of my income and putting it into savings. Secondly, I was investing in the right kind of investments. What is that? For me, what I found out in all my research, my mountain of research is low cost index funds. I only own two. It's incredibly simple. One of them, I own every stock in the United States that's publicly traded. Number two, I own every stock outside the United States that's publicly traded. So literally, Cyan, I own every publicly traded stock on the globe, on the planet. For me to go broke, to go to zero, the entire economic world system would have to collapse to zero. Now, what's the probability of that happening? If it did happen, we'd have bigger problems than money, okay? So anyway, I'm not worried about this stock is better, this stock is better. I own them all. I own every stock on the market. And for, like I say, it's so diversified, it gives me such peace of mind at night when I sleep because I know the whole world's not going to collapse tomorrow. And the third thing I did was I used market volatility to work for me instead of against me. So many people, they buy high and sell low because they let their emotions lead them. I stopped that when I had the knowledge. I says, I don't need to worry about this anymore. Warren Buffett said this. He said, you talk about forecasters and these supercomputers and these PhDs forecasting. Warren Buffett, one of the most famous billionaires on the planet and one of the richest men on the planet, he says the following about forecast. Forecasting tells you a lot about the forecaster, but nothing about the market. And that is so true. It is so true. I stopped listening to the Wall Street people on TV. I stopped listening to them. I said, this is a joke. They don't know any more than I do. Their guess is as good as they. Half the time they're wrong, half the time they're right. And that's real facts. That's real. You can show that. And so who can predict 9/11? Who could predict, wars and things like that? That's not an economic thing. You can't predict that kind of stuff. So stop trying. When you own the whole market, it just brings peace to you. And so I ended that cycle. I learned how to build my wealth twice as fast with half the risk, without a supercomputer, without a PhD, was simple principles of truth that I distilled from all the research I did.
I love it. I think that's concise and it leaves you thinking about maybe the hardest things that you can solve is not by, perhaps reading is something that, and I believe in this, David, for every problem that exists in the world, there is a book somewhere out there that's waiting for you to discover or be discovered, right? And I think that's something, or part of it, something that you shared did resonate with me as well. And what you said, I mean, the important part being that those books were not really trying to sell any product or any, I mean, the idea of pitch was not there. And, those were from the people that did make it. And now I'm hearing it from you who have made it at this point of your life and in such short time. I mean, that is incredible to think about, David. And I think this is disgustingly motivating for anyone who's listening to this right now. So I think that's perhaps.
Can I add something?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, just I in the book, and I said to you too, I doubled my portfolio 3 times in a 6-year period. My last double was a 7-figure. It got me to the millionaire status. My double I just finished, which was 28 months later, after my third double, it was a 7-figure double itself into the multimillionaire status. Now, it's like a flywheel. The momentum starts going, the compound interest starts working for you. And it's like, wow, you look back and go, how is this happening? It's not magic. There's no hocus pocus to it. It's just sound financial principles that are the test of time has proven. It's not like the latest thing on TikTok or the latest thing about, crypto or it's nothing that I'm not putting those people down. I'm just saying for me, I need a solid, stable thing, not a crazy. And let me tell you, so many people, even your listeners may be thinking of this. Oh, that's nice for you to say that. But if I made the kind of money you're making, I don't make enough money. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, David. I can't afford to invest. That's what's crazy. Let me share with you why that's a lie that people are feeding their brains wrong, in the wrong way. NBA, the National Basketball Association, the average player in the NBA makes over $10 million a year. I didn't say in their lifetime. I said in 1 year, they make over $10 million. And yet, after 5 years of retirement, 60% of them are broke, according to the Netflix documentary Broke. And the NFL, the football players are even worse. Okay, after only 2 years of retirement, 78% of them are either bankrupt or in serious financial stress. That's according to Sports Illustrated. Now compare that to Dale Schroeder. Okay, Sion, he was a basketball-loving carpenter who made below average to average income his entire career. He chose to live on less than he earned and invest the difference wisely. He ended up with a $3 million portfolio. That's more than most people in the NBA and the NFL made with their tens of millions of dollars of income. What I discovered when I made the compass is making money and building wealth are two separate skill sets. Those basketball players, they knew how to make money like nobody knew how to make money, but they were terrible, most of them, not all of them, terrible at building wealth. Dale Schroeder, he was kind of bad at making money. He didn't make much money, but he was a master at building wealth. Once I understood that, I realized saying that you don't make enough money is just a lie and an excuse. It's not true. And I know that to be true.
That's insane. I think that quote that you said towards the end, I think that is something that you don't get to hear often. And, I never thought about it, the difference between making wealth and making money, but now I do, right? And the statistics that you shared with us, I think that's mind-blowing. I mean, 60%, I mean, that's a huge percentage. And I think, David, that really tells you where the problem is, right? It's definitely not really because, you're not, I mean, you're bad at making money, but it's definitely has to do with the mindset problem, like you said, David. And, once it starts rolling off, like I said, it's the momentum that gets you there, at double, triples. And, it starts compounding over time. And that is something that I think so many of people really underestimate, that aspect of the financial market in itself. And I think, I really have no words, after hearing that statistics. And I think the way you summed it up towards the end was a very important message, perhaps, for this entirety of this conversation. So, I mean, I would love to end on this note. And if there's something that I would like to share, well, actually, there's nothing because I think you covered most, or 99%. But if there's something that I would like to say and direct our listeners to sit with, I think what you have really reminded us from this is that something simple and something radical at the same time, right? So financial peace is not really a number on the wall that you reach. I think it is a systematic way of how you reach it and how you build it. And I think that system does not have to be complicated to work. In fact, it is simpler, right? Like the way you explained it. The clearer, the more automated it is, the more you can trust it without thinking about it every day. And the thing that I shared about the books as well, David, that also really resonated with me. So I would love the listeners today to sit with that and maybe reflect on where they might need to put their time and energy on. Perhaps would that be reading? Would that be, trusting their own instincts or their guts, or would that be, focusing on the later part of the conversation where you said, how can you build wealth? So, David, before we wrap this up, would quickly love to ask for everyone who wants to find the one-page wealth compass, download the free PDF, or connect with your work, where should they go?
I would like to address listeners who are feeling that quiet desperation that I felt at 63. I just want to say it's not your ending, it's your beginning. You just need clarity. And my mission is to share a one page of clarity with people so they don't have to feel the terror I did. If they just go to onepagewealthcompass.com, they can download the actual one page compass that I used to get me from 63, nearly broke, to 69, a millionaire. And it's free. What I did, you'll see how I stripped away the noise and the confusion. You see the power of the 9 trail markers and them in the right order. And when you're ready to take your success to the next level, the book will give you the simple clarity few people ever achieve. I believe this truly. Clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. Go to onepagewealthcompass.com and download your free compass for yourself. I'm not selling nothing. I'm just sharing to give back.
Lovely. And I think I'll include the details in the show notes for all the listeners who are listening to this right now, so that easily reach out to your resource and you as well, David. So thank you so much for putting that together and, helping people and leaders and businesses to reach their goals. So this was, I think, a very insightful conversation, very informative conversation to perhaps end the day with. So to everyone who is still listening to this, who has stuck with us to this point, so whether you are ahead or behind, or simply in that desperative state, unsure of where you stand, maybe I want you to hear this, that it is not too late. It was not too late at 63 for David, so it is not too late for you. So this has been Sayan on Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, part of the Healthy Mind by Avik Network. So take good and peaceful care of yourselves, and I'll see you the next one.